Introduction: The Medieval World, a roadmap for transformation to creativity, from 300 to 1500. When we embark on our journey through the Middle Ages, it is important to recognize that we are not stepping into a world that emerged from sudden collapse, but into one that developed gradually out of the Roman Empire. From around 300 to about 1500, the people of Europe, Byzantium, and the Islamic world created new civilizations out of older traditions. They endured crises, built institutions, fought wars, and expressed their ideals in religion, art, and learning. To follow this story, we will trace 8 major stages, each defined by both continuity and change, catastrophe, and creativity. We begin with the late Roman world, between 300 and 600 CE, a time we call the prelude to the Middle Ages. Here we will see the old empire transform, not destroyed. Emperors like Diocletian and Constantine reconstructed government, tied peasants to land and workers to trades, and created Constantinople as a new imperial capital. Most important, Christianity shifted from persecuted sect to official religion, shaping public life and producing enduring institutions like the monastery. Meanwhile, Germanic peoples entered the empire as allies and invaders, creating kingdoms that adopted Roman law and Christian faith. In the East, Justinian codified Roman law and built Hagia Sophia, while in Arabia, Muhammad preached a new faith that would spread rapidly as Islam. By 600, the Western Roman Empire was gone, but in its place stood 3 sibling civilizations: Western Christendom, Byzantium, and Islam. The period from 600 to 750 is when those sibling cultures first took form. Western Europe was fragmented but consolidated around kingdoms like the Franks, where rulers allied with bishops and monasteries. In England and Ireland, Christianity spread through missions, creating networks of learning and sanctity. In Spain, the Visigoths achieved unity under Catholicism before being overwhelmed by Muslim armies in 711. Byzantium survived by reorganizing its military and insisting on Orthodox identity, while Islam expanded with astonishing speed from Arabia to Spain and Persia. Under the Umayyads, Damascus became the capital of a vast empire, with Arabic as its official language and monumental architecture like the Dome of the Rock symbolizing its presence. The Mediterranean was no longer a Roman lake, but a shared and contested space. Between 750 and 900, these civilizations created new identities. In the West, the Carolingians replaced the Merovingians, and Charlemagne forged an empire that sought to revive Roman traditions, enforce Christian practice, and promote learning in what historians call the Carolingian Renaissance. In 800, Charlemagne was crowned emperor by the Pope, symbolizing a new imperial identity, though his empire soon fragmented under his heirs. In the British Isles, Christianity and kinship took root, while in Spain, the Umayyad Emirate of Cordoba asserted independence from Baghdad, creating a brilliant Islamic society. Byzantium, the crisis of iconoclasm, defining orthodoxy through the defense of images, and it extended its influence into Eastern Europe through missions. Now the Abbasids in Baghdad presided over a cultural flowering, translating Greek texts and advancing science, even as their political authority waned. And by 900, the medieval world's identities were firmly established: Latin Christendom, Orthodox Byzantium, and a universal but fragmented Islam. Now, from 900 to 1050, political communities were reordered. Europe faced Viking, Magyar, and Muslim raids, but gradually recovered as new dynasties stabilized power. Local lords built castles, peasants clustered in villages, and feudal bonds tied society together. In France, the Capetians began their long dynasty. In Germany, Otto I defeated the Magyars and was crowned the emperor, inaugurating the Holy Roman Empire. England consolidated under Alfred and his successors, while Scandinavia converted to Christianity. And in Spain, Cordoba became a caliphate under Abd al-Rahman III, one of the most brilliant cities of the medieval world. Byzantium expanded under the Macedonian dynasty, and the Islamic world, through fragmented though fragmented, produced vibrant scholarship. This was an age of recovery and reordering, when Europe became less fragile and more self-confident. Now, the years 1050 to 1150 brought new configurations. Populations rose sharply. Agricultural expansion intensified, and towns revived with markets and guilds. Lords and vassals defined feudal society, but monarchs like William the Conqueror in England centralized authority after the Norman conquest. We know that the church asserted independence in the Gregorian reform, leading to the investiture conflict or controversy between the Pope and the Emperor. And then the Crusades began in 1095, projecting Christian armies into the Eastern Mediterranean, while Iberian kingdoms expanded southward against the Muslim Al-Andalus. Romanesque churches along pilgrimage routes proclaimed a new cultural confidence. This was a time when Europe expanded outward and reorganized inward, creating the political and religious patterns of the High Middle Ages. From 1150 to 1250, aspirations were institutionalized. The papacy, under Innocent III, ruled as a monarchy, legislating through councils and canon law or religious law. Monarchs developed bureaucracies and law codes, as in England's common law under Henry II and France's growing administration. Universities emerged in Bologna, Paris, Oxford, and Salamanca, training clerics and officials in scholastic reasoning that sought to reconcile faith and reason. New religious orders like the Franciscans and Dominicans institutionalized ideals of poverty and preaching. Gothic cathedrals soared above towns, embodying spiritual and civic ambition. Crusading continued in the Holy Land, Spain, and the Baltic. Latin Christendom was now larger, more coherent, more competent than ever before, with institutions that would endure for centuries. Now, the period from 1250 to 1350 was one of tension and reconciliations. The papacy's claim to supremacy met growing resistance from monarchs, as in the clash between Boniface VIII and Philip IV of France. The papacy moved to Avignon and provoking criticism of corruption. Monarchies grew stronger, summoning representative assemblies like the English Parliament, the French Estates General, and Iberian courts. Population pressure led to famine in 1315 to 1317, and social unrest broke out in towns and countrysides. Now, on the opposite, intellectual life flourished in universities, where Thomas Aquinas synthesized Aristotelian philosophy and Christian theology, while mystics like Meister Eckhart offered personal paths to God. Gothic architecture reached its peak, and vernacular literature, from Dante's Divine Comedy to the Poema de Mio Cid, expressed cultural creativity. The century was balanced precariously between this strain and resilience. And finally, from 1350 to 1500, Europe experienced catastrophe and creativity together. The Black Death wiped out a third to half of the population, undermining old hierarchies and sparking revolts like the English Rising of 1381. The Hundred Years' War ravaged in France, but also strengthened monarchies and parliaments. The Great Schisms divided the papacy between Rome and Avignon until the Council of Constance restored unity in 1417, though conciliar reform challenged papal primacy. Now, towns adapted to labor shortages. Italian bankers, emergents like the Medici financed new economies, and the Hanseatic League dominated northern trade. Art reached new heights with Giotto and Jan van Eyck, while literature flourished in Chaucer and Christine de Pienza. Mystic spirituality and humanistic scholarship prepared the ways for the Renaissance even. Now, even as war, plague, and schism tore through society, Europeans demonstrated resilience and imagination, reshaping their civilization in ways that would define the early modern world. Looking back across these centuries, we see a story not of decline into darkness, but of transformation, tension, and invention. From the Roman world transformed into Christian kingdoms, to the emergence of sibling civilizations, to the forging of new identities, the reordering of politics, the new configurations of towns and crusades, the institutionalization of the papacy, monarchy, and universities, the tensions and reconciliations, strained creative age, and finally the catastrophes and creativity of the 14th and 15th centuries. The medieval world reveals itself as a dynamic and diverse one. It was a world of kings and peasants, monks and merchants, popes and heretics, warriors and poets. It was filled with suffering, but also with astonishing resilience and creativity. And it is this bewildering mix that makes the study of the Middle Ages so compelling, reminding us that even in times of crisis, people find ways to create, imagine, and endure.